On the campaign trail, President-elect Donald Trump pushed Bibles, sneakers, and even his own cryptocurrency.
Crypto is the future.
But as he readies for the White House, it's his social media company that's raising eyebrows for potential conflicts of interest. Truth Social is the mainstay of the Trump Media and Technology Group, trading under the ticker DJT since March this year. According to its earnings statement, the company lost more than $19 million in the last quarter, but its valuation, more than $5 billion, and a majority of it owned by Trump.
Is there a precedent for a president-elect coming into office with 115 million shares in a publicly traded company?
Well, there is no precedent. We already sort of ran this movie, but on a smaller scale the first time around, and now we're just going to see it on a much larger scale.
Trump already had a web of business dealings during his first term. While he handed over control of the Trump Organization to his sons, he continued to own it with its hotels, resorts, and golf courses. But what he didn't have, a social media platform competing against big tech companies, worrying some ethics experts.
If you've got a direct financial stake in that and you have a lot of sway and influence over what's going to happen there in terms of regulation, then I think it's pretty clear why that's a significant conflict of interest problem.
But Trump doesn't have to divest. While it's illegal for executive branch employees to work on government matters that will affect their own personal financial interest, it does not apply to the president or vice president. One rule that Trump does have to play by, the emoluments clause in the Constitution, which prevents government officials, including the president, from financially benefiting from foreign governments. Something that Richard Painter, a Bush White House ethics lawyer who has been a vocal critic of Trump, alleges he already did.
There was substantial evidence that the Trump Organization did profit from transactions with foreign governments during the first Trump term.
Painter helped bring an emoluments lawsuit from a nonprofit alleging more than 3,400 conflicts of interest. Congressional Democrats and Maryland and D.C. sued Trump too. But a federal appeals court dismissed the Democrats' lawsuit in 2020, saying they lacked legal standing to sue the president. Then the Supreme Court ended the other lawsuits, saying they were moot because Trump was no longer in office. Now, DJT stock brings another potential avenue for foreign investment that could trigger scrutiny.
If a foreign government were to buy a substantial block of stock and in effect be in a business partnership with Donald Trump, that could be a serious problem.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
Previous presidents like Jimmy Carter chose to avoid any problems by divesting. In Carter's case, from his peanut farm. But Trump's holdings, not just peanuts. Trump's transition team responding to our request for comment, saying in part, President Trump removed himself from his multi-billion-dollar empire to run for office and forwent his government's salary. Adding President Trump didn't get into politics for profit. Trump himself insists he has no intention of selling his shares of DJT, the stock bearing the president-elect's own name, a legal and ethical conundrum.
So, Brian, Brian is joining us now. A couple of questions for you. First of all, how is that stock doing right now? Up, down, flat?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually down considerably since the election. And by the way, it's kind of become a barometer of feelings about Trump himself.
Second question, end game this out, right? Like, follow this to its potentially logical conclusion here. Let's say, I mean, the emolument stuff didn't work first term. I think your expert said it. We saw this movie the first time around. We know how that ended. Let's say there is another, now that he is back in office, suit that is filed by Trump critics or Trump opponents here. Ultimately, if the suit is successful, wouldn't it end up at the Supreme Court? I mean, is that the sort of end result here? And with the court's conservative tilt, what are the chances anything could actually be done?
Yeah, well, I mean, because Trump is back in office, some of those cases which were excused as moot might come back. And that's, by the way, for dealings that he has and continues to have through the Trump Organization, even though, yes, maybe he has his sons operating, he still owns the Trump Organization. When it comes to DJT stock, I think it's very interesting because, weirdly, we might have more transparency into that because of the fact that it's a publicly traded company. If you had some sort of large firm, be it domestic or foreign, that buys a substantial stake, well, there would have to be SEC filings that would be for everyone to see. So that actually gives us perhaps a little bit more light into what's happening. But again, the emoluments clause would make it such that, let's say, for example, a Saudi wealth fund couldn't really come in and buy a substantial stake there.
What would you be looking for in those SEC filings?
Well, I mean, those 13F filings are really where you would see large controls and large changes there. And if Trump were to try to sell himself, you would likely see that there as well. Although, again, he's committed to not selling it, at least is what he says.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.